The Challenger box for the Team Yankee British Force comes, well, it gives you the ability to build that Challenger in 2 different flavours.
Certainly do, yeah.
And we're going to have a look at them now, because we've got 2 built right in front of us.
Yep, absolutely. So, the first one we've got is the normal Challenger from the Armoured Troop. This is a Challenger with standard armour that comes factory fresh, basically. Mm-hmm. Both of the Challenger variants have the same gun on them, okay? The only difference with the armoured versions is their actual armour points. So when you're working out for weapon penetration, things like that.
Okay.
So what you've got here, as you can
standard.
see, this is the standard version, yes. You've got your standard bazooka skirts on the side, which is a very British thing after their experience in the Second World War.
Right.
Panzerfausts and Panzerschrecks at close range took out a lot of tank tracks.
Yeah.
So what they tended to do as the post-war doctrine was put these bazooka skirts on, which was like a spaced armour, very early reactive armour.
Yeah.
And it just meant that any shots tended to bounce off if it was short range or anything like that.
Right.
Then what you've got on here is your standard cupola here with the machine gun built in, and that was actually one that the commander could use, where it's also slave to the driver, I believe. And these use the TOG system, and the TOG system was an upgraded infrared system that
Nothing
fired.
to do with duvets.
Absolutely nothing like that, no. But it was a TOG system that basically meant they were the envy of most of the battle tanks of this period, because they could fire at long range, and they could also fire effectively at long range. It wasn't just laying shots down, it was laying shots down that did damage.
And that's because of the IR cameras.
Yeah, so they had IR cameras, they had infrared for nighttime, but the TOG system was actually a slave to the gunner and the commander. So both could see through the system.
So good communication. Is that reflected in the stats cards? For
so
these?
it is slightly. So basically what you're looking at when you're in Team Yankee and anything like that is what are the optional notes that give them the better to hit on rating.
Right.
So if I was firing at a Russian tank, you would be using your hit on rating, but because of the notes, and this is the notes on each weapon that you can see on the unit cards and also in the book. And what you're looking at here is the notes for each weapon. So you've got the 120 millimeter cannon, okay? You've got brutal, laser rangefinder, smoke, and stabilizer. The stabilizer means it can move on the shoot on the move.
Right, that's
and that
good,
basically means that it's a lot more accurate. It doesn't have to have a penalty to shooting and moving.
Moving. That's very good.
The brutal means that it is extra effective, basically, when it's firing. It means that you're getting the normal hit on. There's no extra range or anything like that modifiers. And the laser rangefinder means that it is over 16 inches. It's not got a modifier on it. Anything over 16 inches, if it's not got a laser rangefinder, it could be affected by range, it could be affected by the wind, could be affected by, could even be affected by what ground you're on if you fire and the tank moves at an angle.
These are sniper tanks.
Essentially they are, but they are worth it in terms of the points. So for a normal Challenger, which is the one we're looking at, it's 33 points for 3. So effectively you could only have 3 sets of 3 in your army before you're almost at 100 points.
Right.
But that's where you manage it in terms of how many you take. You have the option of taking 2. You also then get some support options, or you could take them as a support option, as we spoke about before. Okay. The other option that we have on the same sprue is this version here, which is essentially an up-armoured. It's a Romor version. Now, the Romor armour is space age armour, basically. It's ERA, E-R-A, which is an explosive reactive armour. It's an applique that is, apart from the tank, goes over the top of those bazooka skirts on the original. You can just see them sticking out the end there. Okay. And what it did was on the front and the sides and gave it just an extra level of protection. The Americans actually used this idea slightly before we did, even though it was our version of the armour on their M1A1. So the Americans were using it first, and we realised just how good it was. So you do get the option of having the upgraded version. Now these were actually used quite extensively in the Gulf War, and it was actually a Romor tank, a Challenger 1 that was from the Royal Hussars, I believe, who got the longest ever tank kill over 2 miles away against an Iraqi T-55, I think it was. Longest recorded ever. And it was just such good armour that the British actually lost no challenges in the desert. So it's something to definitely recommend.
It's not a huge points difference either. 6 points for taking 3 of them in Romor armour.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so what it basically means is that your armour value for the Romor is slightly better. So the front armour and the side armour actually increase, as you can see on this stat line here.
Quite a bit more on the side armour.
It is a lot more because of those extra panels, obviously. And it is 6 points, but it's worth it. But it does mean that the cross rating actually goes up slightly. Right. So the cross rating in Team Yankee is how good a vehicle is at going across sort of difficult or impassable terrain. Right. Because it's got more armour, it weighs more. So on 62 tonnes, I think it goes up to about 70 tonnes. Right. That actually is quite a difference when you're going across sort of bumps and dips and bridges or escarpments or hills or anything like that.
It's got a 3+ instead of a 2+.
Yeah, so it just means it's slightly harder in terms of rolling the dice to get over a cross country. That's the only difference with it.
Cool.
On that.
So, and again, like we were saying before, these are new and they're plastics.
Yes,
so
they are.
the sprues have those build options. They're not two separate units. They're not
No.
two separate boxes you have to buy. You can build either or.
Either or, yeah.
And what do you get? 3 in a box?
You get 5 in a box.
Five in a box.
It's 5 in a box, which is enough for a
Three
maximum
units.
of 3. Yes, you can have your 3 in your armoured troop and 2 in your HQ.
Yeah.
Or you can have 1 in your HQ and 2 troops of 2.
Oh,
so
that's
it is enough for a formation in a box.
That's nice. So you don't have
Absolutely, and then obviously if you buy 2, you can then expand your options and what you're making. You see, so 2 boxes would be enough to make a full formation with as many on there as you can, basically for bigger games and things like that.
Cool. So that's the Challenger armoured troop with the heavy armour or the standard armour.
Absolutely, yeah.
Box.
Perfect.
Sweet.